Hey guys, this is Shana E here from Track. I shared this post day before, not yesterday, on my page, and I spoke to imposter syndrome a bit, and it's something that many of us experience. We deal with it. We don't necessarily talk about it. We're not even sure we have a language for it, but there are certain things that we are experiencing. And so that's what I really wanted to talk about. How is it that imposter syndrome affects your business? How is it that imposter syndrome affects your side hustle, your project, your goal, whatever that thing is that you want to do? Because it does affects your business. Because imposter syndrome actually affects your self-esteem, your confidence. It affects your belief that you are capable. And so that's what I really want to unpack today. So I'm just sharing this really quickly. Bear with me. Okay, so let me go to my outline because I don't want this to be a long drawn out conversation, but I do want to make sure that I stay on track. So if you don't know what imposter syndrome is actually a belief that you have. You may suffer from it, you may not. Most of us probably do, to different levels, but it is a belief that you are a fraud, a belief that you are undeserving, and that you are incapable. And that can come from a lot of different places, right? It can come from childhood trauma, from childhood wounds. It can come from people speaking things to you or over you. It can come from, teachers, parents, friends, family. It can come from so many sources, and much of the time these are things that have been wired in over time, right? So we have anywhere between 50 to 80,000 thoughts per day. Sorry, not per day. 50 to 80,000 thoughts per minute. Is it per minute or per hour? Some crazy figure like that. And so when you have so many thoughts, and this is science, y'all. Like, I'm not pulling these numbers out of thin air. Most of our thoughts involve us or are centered around us. And so if we have negative thoughts about ourselves, and we're having that many thoughts per minute, I didn't even say per hour or per day, per minute, then what it is, it's a reel that you're playing to yourself constantly of negativity. It's a reel that you're playing that says you're not good enough, are you sure you can do this, are you capable, no you're not capable, this is why this happened and this is why that didn't happen. Imposter syndrome is one, very real, and it affects your business. Much of the time we think that we can separate ourselves from our business, but particularly if you are a solopreneur, if you are someone who has a small team, how you see yourself and how you are, your personality, how you function, those things will also cross over into your business. And so if you don't have good thoughts about yourself, or you don't think that you are capable, or you don't think that you are worthy, that is going to show up in your business. Whether it be that you overcompensate, or and you could overcompensate with bravado, you can overcompensate with false ego, you can overcompensate with making yourself seem larger than life, or making yourself seem perfect, that you have it all together when you really don't. It can manifest in perfectionism, and that's something that I've struggled with over the years. It can also manifest in under delivering. It can manifest in over delivering, because you feel like you need to always prove to people why they should pay you, or you just feel lucky that someone is willing to work with you or take a chance on you, and so you need to over deliver. One of the things that you have to be mindful of with, if you suffer from imposter syndrome, is what is your motivation? Why are you doing the things that you do? And I had a conversation with someone a few days ago. If you're selling a product or service and you give a client or a customer an extra product, well, what was your motivation for doing that? Were you doing that because you really like that person, because you vibe with that person, because you know they need it, but maybe it's not in their budget right now, so you just gave them extra? Or did you give them that item, that extra thing, for free, complimentary, because you were just so grateful that they bought from you? Or you needed to prove that you're better than the competition, or you need to make up with something extra to get them to come back. That's common. And I've operated from that place. I've operated from that place of just a lack mindset when it came to myself, and the over delivering when I was already underpricing myself anyway. And that's something that I'm going to get into a little bit deeper in a few minutes. So we talked about what imposter syndrome is and why it can happen. Now, I'll take you into my journey a little bit about imposter syndrome. So for me, it's something that goes and comes. Sometimes I feel like I'm over it and I've worked through it, and then there are other times where I feel like I slip back down the slippery slope, and all of a sudden again I'm feeling like I have to prove myself. And so how did that manifest for me? One of the ways was, for a long time I was obsessed with, okay, I have to go get my master's degree, I have to go get a graduate degree, because no one's going to take me seriously if I don't have this title behind my name, these letters behind my name, when I talk, when I speak. I'm so thankful that I don't deal with that anymore, but I had to come to terms with that. I had to come to terms with, hey Shaquille, with it's okay for me to talk about these things, and it's okay for me to study and find myself approved, and I don't have to go and have an expensive degree to say that I am worthy, and sometimes we can get people, listen, we talk about validation shouldn't come from the external, but sometimes that is the thing that you need. Sometimes you need people to speak belief into you. Sometimes you need people to say, this is how I see you, in good ways. Not people who are trying to break you down, but this is how I see you, and I don't understand why you can't see it for yourself. For me, it manifested as well in people would ask me to speak, and I would say, well, I don't have anything to talk about. Like, why are they asking me? I don't have anything to say. Other times it was, I'm too young. Listen, I'm over the age of 30 now, so this was when I was under 30, but I'm too young. I don't have a perspective. Why should my voice be important? I haven't lived enough life yet. There were so many lies that I told myself about how I was not competent. And it took so much, y'all. I believe in God, I believe in Jesus Christ. So that's a part of my journey and how I have been overcoming that, because I'm not out of the woods yet. But a lot of that had to do with, what does God say about me? What are his dreams over me? What are the prophetic words? What are the visions that he gave me? And believing that I don't have to come equipped and be perfect. Because that's another thing. It was perfectionism. And I believe that came from my childhood and things that happened. But I also felt like I have to be perfect, and not necessarily I have to be perfect when it comes to my stuff, but I have to be perfect when it comes to clients and customers, and I'm here to debunk for anybody listening, because it baffles me when I hear people say, well, oh, you always seem like you have your stuff together and you're always on top of things. How do you do it? And I'm like, that's a lie. That is a lie. Do not, and I tell people, do not compare yourself to me. Do not, because I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to get my ish together, for lack of a better term. I'm not going to say the real thing. We all are. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. We all are. Like I said, my imposter syndrome goes and comes. There are some days where I feel like, you better have all my money. all of it. Up front, I'm not playing with you. The price is the price. And then there are other days where I'm like, I think I should do that for free. I don't think I'm good enough, or I don't have that much credentials behind my name, or just a bunch of negative self-talk. It really just depends on a day. Heck, it depends on the time of day, because I could have started off on top of the world, and then by that afternoon, get some bad news or get a no, and then it's like, I really don't think I'm qualified. I'm not sure that I should be doing this thing. I need to go get a 9 to 5. I need to go get a 9 to 5. I've had that conversation with myself many a time. I thank God that I'm out of that. But, give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. And one of the biggest mistakes I think people make is we believe that we're the only person going through this thing, this feeling. We don't want to talk to people about it because we believe that no one else can understand, or we don't trust anybody enough to open up and say, I don't think I'm good enough and I need help. I can tell you from personal experience with venture co-working, when we had that space, that was the community that I didn't know I needed, because I got into that space probably a year or so into my self-employed journey. And I found a group of people there who, when I felt low, when I was like, hey, maybe I should get a job, when I wasn't sure about my capabilities, I could talk to those people and they understood, because they were in the exact same position. So while entrepreneurship could feel isolating, we also have to recognize that if we open up ourselves and we talk and we admit and we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, then other people can be vulnerable with us too. And then we could have a whole support system. If you think that as an entrepreneur you don't need anybody, that you don't need help, that you don't need to talk to anyone, that you don't need a network, that you don't need to be able to trust in people, that you don't need safe places to vent, to get information, then you're going to hurt yourself. You are hurting yourself. You are hurting yourself. I cannot say that enough. You are hurting yourself. Even outside of business, people need people. That's in our nature. We are social beings. When you put somebody in isolation, like, this is real, this is science. When you put people in isolation, those prisoners who are in isolation 23 hours out of the day, and they're there by themselves. Do you know that mental illness can start to set in for a lack of human contact? They can't see anybody. All they can do is hear. Mental illness can set in. We are social creatures. As business owners, as entrepreneurs, we have to remember too that what imposter syndrome does as well is it makes us want to hide. It makes us want to hide the imperfections, hide ourselves. Sometimes it makes us just not want to show up, period. And you have to be open to community. You have to be open to talking. You have to be open to getting help. And you also have to know yourself. And you have to pay attention to knowing yourself. What it is that you like, what you don't like. How do you operate? What are the best times a day that you operate? How does your brain work? What is your best communication style? These are things that I had no idea that I needed to know or pay attention to in the beginning when I went out on my own. And so it's been a journey of a new type of self-discovery. And every time that I think I know myself well enough, then there's more, because different situations uncover different parts of my personality and my quirks, And so I would definitely say, be aware, learn yourself. I cannot stress that enough. Learn yourself. And you also need to learn some of the common afflictions that come with business owners, that come with being in business, that comes with being a creative. that comes with having for even a high intellect. You have to know and do the research so that you can get in front of it. Statistics show that business owners are way more likely to have suicidal thoughts, to have suicidal ideations, to have issues with mental illness, such as depression. Again, that's science. Because of the stress, because of all the decisions that have to be made, because of the imposter syndrome, because of the second guessing, because of the pressure. And so knowing that, I have had to learn how to build in rest. I have had to learn to accept that it is okay to take breaks. And my imposter syndrome used to say, you're not working unless you're working hard. Now, I don't believe in that. I 100% believe in working smarter and not harder. But my imposter syndrome said, you don't deserve to get paid well unless you are working hard. That's a lie. You don't deserve to get paid well because you rest, because you take breaks. That's what I was saying to myself. That's a lie. And I've learned that. And I've learned that because I was this close to a breakdown. Not even joking. I want to say that was back in 2018. The fall of 2018, I was burnt out. I was on the edge of cussing everybody out. I wanted to break up my phone. I wanted to get a job and just quit this whole thing. But instead, God checked me and told me to take a break. And I have not always been true to taking breaks. But in 2021, I promised myself, because the pandemic put things in perspective for me. And hopefully it put things in perspective for you too. But for me, one of the things was I need to take care of myself. I became more mindful of exercising. So I've been on my health journey. I've been more mindful of not working anywhere between 16 and 20-hour days. I've stopped doing that. I'm mindful about sleeping. I'm mindful about eating on time and not subsisting on coffee or tea all day unless I choose to. I'm mindful about taking rest and napping. I don't get it right every week, but I have to try to be consistent in my rest, because if I don't, that pushes me to the edge mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And I don't need to do that when statistics say I am already in a demographic that is going to have issues with my mental health, that is going to have issues with whether I want to live or die, literally. And I implore you to do the same. Take care of yourself and address your imposter syndrome. 100% address it. Whether it is that you go and look up resources such as, y'all don't sleep on Instagram, because there are therapists on Instagram that pour out their knowledge and the experiences that they have with their clients, and they pour it out on their pages. There are some really good pages. Use the hashtag. Search the hashtag imposter syndrome. Read up. Go on YouTube. Read books. Read. Listen. Go to therapy if you can afford it. If you can't afford it and you don't like your therapist, stop and find somebody else. But do what works for you. Please do what works for you. If you need to journal, then journal. Get into it or go back to it. If you need to write out your feelings, you need to sing your feelings, you need to dance out your feelings, then you do that. Build in time into your schedule for you to do those things that allow you to release. One of the things that helped me was a piece of advice that my mom gave me when I was in the throes of explaining to her imposter syndrome. And she said, that's a problem. So what you need to do is you get a piece of paper and you write down everything that you've done. Everything, no matter how big or small. Write down everything. And you look at that paper and you tell me if you could justify why you don't think you're good enough to speak, why you don't think you're good enough for people to listen to you, why you don't think that you have nothing to say. And can I tell you, I didn't even finish the list. I felt so silly. After I sat down and I started to write out my accomplishments and the things that I've studied on my own and what I've taught myself and my degrees and all of that, I felt silly. I really felt silly. I didn't even need to finish the list. I felt silly. Now, you may not have, like, a bunch of degrees and titles to put behind your name, but doggone it, I know you know how to do some things that I can't even fathom how to do, that I would have to spend all of YouTube looking for, okay? All day. Write those things down. Write down the things that people come to you for and say that you are good at, and so they seek you out. Write down the things that come easy to you that you don't think are a big deal, because I promise you, those are big deals. And there are people around the world who make money off of what you probably don't put any value in. One of the biggest things and that I said I was going to come back to was pricing. Many of us do not price ourselves properly. And that could come from a lot of different reasons. One of the biggest reasons, imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome says, why do I feel like I should be able to charge all of that? I'm not that good. I haven't been doing this thing that long. This is subjective. Nobody's ever paid me that before. Maybe no one's ever paid you that before because you never asked to be paid that before. It's not that people aren't willing. See, I'm the type of person I get in people's business, right? Because my clients and the people that I work with, they don't just come to me for strategy. Because what I end up doing is I'm going to address why you think you can't charge that much. I want to address why you think you can't do that thing. I want to help you address why it is that you think you're not good enough to go out there and do this thing. So yeah, we have some deliverables to get out. And yeah, I'm going to give you your homework. And part of your homework might be, let's talk about why you don't think that you are good enough. That is a huge thing. I remember having clients who I gave, let's say for example, I did $1,500 worth of work and I charged $500. Mind you, I'm mad as hell because I know I work hard. I know I work hard and I'm mad that I didn't charge enough. But did I have the guts to charge more? Nope. I didn't, even though I knew how hard I worked. I knew the amount of time and hours and research that went into it. But I didn't have the guts to say, listen, price going up. Didn't have it. Didn't have it for a couple of years. Now I'm at a place where I could say, you know what? If you can't do it, then, I could refer you out. I'm not going to, bend over backwards anymore. I don't have to. But sometimes we are in positions where we need that money. But I don't ever want you to think for a second that what someone is paying you is a reflection of how much you're worth. How much you charge should never be a reflection, or how much people pay you should not be a reflection of your worth. Now, I will say though, that there are times when I can look at someone's pricing and I know that they don't value what it is that they do. So one of the things from me that I do with clients and just random people, like I said, I like to get in people's business. And so sometimes I don't know these people and I'll say, listen, you don't know me. And you could disregard the advice that I'm going to give you. But you need to raise your prices. And then I'll explain to them if they seem open to it. I've even done it where I would say to a person, okay, well, I'm going to pay you extra because this is what it's really worth. Or next time I come to you, I expect when I buy from you that your price is going to be higher. Now, I know I'm causing myself to pay more, but that's fine. Because I want to help that person have an understanding. Because you know what? It's not every day that someone is going to come to you and say, what are you doing? You need to learn how to value yourself more and value what it is that you do more. I use data. I use information, So some people I work with, they provide products. And so the good part about products is that you have hard cost. You have raw materials, the cost of those things. So then I can say, listen, all right, so you're charging $20 for this item. What's your first cost? First cost means without any type of markup whatsoever. What is your cost? Okay, my cost is $15. All right. Well, you brought that thing in, or you have to assemble it. What's your cost of gas, and what's your hourly rate to assemble this thing? Okay. All right. So you're selling it for 20, but that cost alone, you're above $20 at this point. So you're actually losing money. I have someone that I am working with, and I sat down one day and I broke down her numbers, and I said, congratulations. She knows who she is, so she's watching this. I said, congratulations. The only reason why you're making a couple of dollars off your product is because you charge $5 for delivery. And that was a hard thing for her to hear. But that's why I say, when I tell you raise your prices, I'm going to back that up with numbers. I want you to see your hard cost. And that's one of the things too that, works against us. And then on top of that, you're going to add imposter syndrome. It's because you don't know your numbers. You don't know how much your product or service is valued or what it costs. And then on top of that, you want to add that you don't value yourself or what you do. That is a recipe for disaster. Okay? So let me just make sure I covered everything that I wanted to cover. I think I did. Yes. So listen, everybody deals with imposter syndrome in some form or the other. Now it's just a matter of, do you live there? Do you try to work through it and move past it? Like I said before, I'm on my journey. Sometimes I'm good, and then other times I didn't realize that I slipped in and had some type of self-defeating self-talk come in that I believed, that caused me to, procrastinate to the point of, the client moved on because I didn't respond fast enough for them, or I didn't respond at all. That cost me money. Not only that, it cost me money, but professionalism out the window. They may have a poor impression of me because I never answered. And that ties back to my imposter syndrome, and I'm still working through that. But that's, again, one of the ways that it works through me. So, when I work with my clients, when I work with people, I give homework. So my homework to you is this. Do you have imposter syndrome? It's a simple yes or no. And if you say, I'm not sure, or maybe, your answer is probably yes. The second thing is, how does that imposter syndrome show up in my life? If you're just joining, you can go back and listen to it from the start. I talked about some of the ways that it shows up throughout this live, actually. Okay? How does it show up for you? Then the third thing, write down what you know about yourself. And when I say what you know about yourself, I'm not necessarily talking about like the deeply, I want you to go deep. Like for me, I could say, well, one of the things that I had to learn was I don't take meetings early in the morning usually, unless it's about money or something super important, because I'm not awake at that hour. I'm not awake early in the morning. I'm not a morning person. I definitely don't have meetings discussing money early in the morning because I tend to undervalue, because again, I'm not thinking straight because I'm not awake. That's what I mean by knowing yourself and knowing how that translates in your business. The next thing is, number 4, I want you to sit down and write down all of your accomplishments, all of the things. I mentioned them before that you're good at, the things that people come to you for, the things that you are learning and that you continue to teach yourself. You are going to find that extremely important. And then I want you to look into some resources. One of the books that I have constantly been recommending over the past 6 months, even though funny enough, I've not completed it, and I'm not even deep into the book, is The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. I began reading that book in a time when, that was in 2018, when I was battling with burnout, and I felt attacked, and so I put the book down, I'll be very honest, because it was just so triggering to me when it came to my struggles and what I was going through mentally and emotionally, because he speaks to how creativity is attacked and the ways in which it is attacked. But it's really good to know these things, because then you can put together a strategy as to how you're going to work around these things. I would definitely say as well, I've started listening to this book. It's called On F Yourself. I'm not going to say the word, but I'm listening to it on Audible. It's On F Yourself. Let me see if I can find the author. But if you look it up on Google or Amazon, it is right there. And he really talks about how to get past your excuses and to live a life that you really want to be living. And so it's really been kicking me in the butt so far. Yes, so On F Yourself by Gary John Bishop. That is a big one as well. I would also say listen to or watch or read Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. That is a good one as well. And that one talks about negotiating and not leaving things on the table, because part of imposter syndrome is it's almost like we're just happy to get the scraps that we're given and not really step up and say, well, okay, no, this is what I really deserve and what I expect. And so I hope this was really helpful for you. If you are interested in sitting down with a strategy session with me to talk about your business, to talk about your pricing, to talk about the direction of your business, even how you need to mentally get out of the fog and move your business forward, reach out to me. I will drop my links and everything in the comments, but you can also visit my website, www.trepadventures.com. What does TREP stand for? Entrepreneur. What does adventures mean? Because business is an adventure. And so I'm Shanna Edgecombe, and I thank you so much for tuning in, watching with me. I am the creative consultant with TREP Consulting, and I'm here to make it make sense in your business. So I'll talk to you later. I'll be back soon. Bye.